Oh my God.
The morning was cold. The kind of cold that makes your breath come out white like smoke. Marcus was 73 years old, and he had seen many mornings like this. He had lived through 73 winters, but this morning felt different. This morning, something inside him told him he needed to come to the county auction. He did not know why. He just knew. Marcus drove his old truck down the dusty road. The truck was gray and dirty. It made a noise when the engine started, like it was tired. Marcus did not care. The truck still worked. That was enough. The road ahead was long and straight. On both sides, the fields were brown and empty. It was October. The harvest was over. The animals were being sold now. This was the time of year when farmers and ranchers came to get rid of animals they did not want anymore. He turned onto the auction ground road at 6 in the morning. The sky was still dark. Only a little light was coming from the east, like someone was slowly turning on a light bulb far away. The ground was wet from morning dew. His boots left footprints in the dust as he walked. The air smelled like diesel fuel and animal waste. This smell was familiar to Marcus. He had worked with animals his whole life. He knew this smell well. The auction ground was already busy, even though it was still early. Men in heavy jackets stood in groups, drinking coffee from thermoses. They talked quietly with each other, making deals before the official bidding even started. These were ranchers and farmers. They knew what they wanted. They had come here with plans. They knew which animals they would try to buy. They knew how much they would spend. Everything was planned. Marcus walked slowly past the first pens. Inside were cattle. Big, strong cattle with big bodies and thick muscles. They looked healthy. They looked valuable. The farmers nodded at these animals with approval. These animals would sell fast. These animals would bring good prices. These animals would go to good farms. Everyone here wanted them. He walked past the horses next. These horses were young and strong. Their coats were shiny. Someone had brushed them and cleaned them up to make them look beautiful. The horses stood with their heads up, their eyes alert and bright. People stopped to look at these horses. People touched their necks and checked their teeth. These animals had value. Everyone could see it. Everyone wanted them. Marcus kept walking. He walked past the sheep. He walked past the goats. He walked further and further into the auction ground, away from the center where the best animals were kept. The animals here were different. These were the animals that were older. These were the animals that were sick or injured. These were the animals that nobody really wanted. At the very back, in a corner that seemed forgotten, Marcus saw it. There was a donkey in a pen by itself. Not with the other donkeys. Alone. Marcus stopped walking. His breath caught in his chest. It was the kind of moment when everything seems to slow down for a second. The donkey was small. Much smaller than the other animals around it. The donkey was brown, but not a nice brown. The brown was dirty and dark, like mud. The fur was not smooth. It was matted and rough. You could see the skin underneath in places. You could see the bones, not just a little bit. You could see many bones. The ribs were showing. The backbone was showing. The hip bones were pointing out. This donkey was very, very hungry. One of the donkey's eyes was completely swollen shut. The fur around that eye was dark and crusty. It looked wrong. It looked painful. The other eye was open, but it was dull. Not bright like the young horses. Not alert. Dull like the light had gone out inside. There was a scar on the donkey's shoulder. It was a big scar. It was a scar that looked like someone had used something hot or something sharp to make it. The scar was dark and deep. The hair had not grown back properly over it. The donkey's neck had deep grooves in it. These grooves came from a rope halter that had been left on for a very long time. The rope had cut into the skin. The grooves were deep and dark. The donkey's legs were very thin. Too thin, like the legs might break if the donkey walked too far. When the donkey moved, it moved very slowly. It moved like it was painful to move. The donkey's head hung down. The ears hung down. Not in a relaxed way, in an exhausted way. Like the donkey had given up expecting anything good. Like the donkey had stopped hoping. Marcus felt something rise up inside his chest. It was anger, it was sadness, it was something else too. Something he could not give a name to. He felt it in his stomach. He felt it in his throat. He felt it behind his eyes. Around the pen, a few people had gathered. They were looking at the donkey. But they were not looking the way they looked at the good animals. They were laughing. "Look at that sorry thing," one man said. He was wearing a red jacket and a cowboy hat. "Is it even alive?" Another man asked. They both laughed. "That is not worth the paper to write down," a third man said. "That is not worth the space in the pen." Marcus could hear them. He could hear the laughter. It was mean laughter. It was the kind of laughter that people use when they think something is worthless. When they think something does not matter. The auctioneer walked over with his clipboard. He looked at the donkey with his eyes. He did not look sad. He did not look angry. He just looked like he was doing his job. He would sell this donkey like he sold every other animal. It did not matter to him. The auction line was moving forward. The animals were going into the ring one by one. The auctioneer was calling out the lot numbers and the starting prices. People were bidding. Animals were being sold. The whole machine was moving forward, fast and smooth. Then it was the donkey's turn. The gate was opened. Someone pushed the donkey into the bright area of the auction ring. The donkey stumbled. It was confused by the noise and the light and the sudden movement. It stumbled forward. That is when the crowd really laughed. It was not a small laugh. It was a big laugh. Many people laughed at the same time. It was like the whole auction ground thought this was funny. A broken, sick donkey stumbling into the ring. Everyone thought it was funny. The auctioneer began calling the lot number. Lot 47, a donkey. "Shall we start at $500? He looked at the crowd. Nobody raised their hand. Nobody was interested. 400? The auctioneer asked. Nothing. The crowd was not paying attention. They were busy talking to each other. They were busy looking at the next animals being brought in. 200? The auctioneer asked. The price kept getting lower. The crowd had made their judgment. This donkey was worthless. This donkey was not valuable. This donkey was a waste of time. Marcus could see the auctioneer getting ready to move on. He could see that nobody was going to bid. He could see that this donkey was going to be unsold. And in that moment, something inside Marcus made a decision. He slowly raised his hand. His old, wrinkled hand, with the liver spots and the wedding ring he had worn for 51 years, went up in the air. "I have 200 with the gentleman in the back," the auctioneer said. He sounded surprised. He was not used to someone bidding on this donkey. The gavel came down fast. One hit, that was all. The donkey was sold. Marcus had bought the animal that everyone had laughed at. Marcus had bought the animal that nobody wanted. He paid $200 in cash. He filled out the papers with his careful handwriting. He arranged to pick up the donkey later that day. As he turned to leave, he could still hear people laughing. He could still hear the mean comments. But Marcus did not care anymore. His mind was made up. He had seen something that was suffering. He had seen something that was broken. He had seen something that nobody else wanted to save. And he had decided that he would save it. That was all that mattered now. The donkey did not know yet that its life was about to change. The donkey did not know that it was going somewhere different. The donkey did not know that someone had chosen it. But Marcus knew, and Marcus was going to keep that promise. He was going to bring this donkey home. He was going to make it better. As the sun rose higher in the sky, painting the auction ground in yellow light, Marcus walked back to his truck. He had come here not knowing why, but now he knew. He had come here to find this donkey. He had come here to be the one person who would say yes when everyone else said no. He had come here to change a life, and he was going to do exactly that.
The sun was starting to go down when Marcus pulled his truck up to the barn. Behind the truck was a small trailer. Inside the trailer was the donkey. The donkey had been quiet the whole ride home. It had not made any noise. It had not moved much. The donkey had just stood there in the darkness of the trailer, probably too scared to move. Marcus opened the back of the trailer slowly. He wanted to be gentle. He wanted the donkey to understand that he was not going to hurt it. He moved slowly. He spoke in a soft voice. "Come on, friend," Marcus said quietly. "We are home now. You are safe now." The donkey did not move at first. The donkey was afraid. Marcus could see the fear in the animal's one good eye. The fear was deep. This donkey had been afraid for a long time. Marcus understood this. He waited. He did not push. He did not pull. He just waited. Finally, very slowly, the donkey stepped backward out of the trailer. One leg at a time. The donkey's legs were shaking. The donkey was weak and tired. When all 4 feet were on the ground, the donkey just stood there. It looked at the barn. It looked at the pasture. It looked at Marcus. The donkey did not know what to expect. Marcus led the donkey to a clean stall in the barn. The stall was warm and dry. Fresh straw covered the ground. There was a water bucket in the corner. There was a feed bucket with hay. Marcus had prepared everything before he left for the auction. He had known he was going to bring an animal home. He had not known which animal, but he had prepared anyway. He tied the donkey gently to a post inside the stall. Not tight, loose enough that the animal could move around. Then he filled another bucket with water. Clean, fresh water. The donkey looked at the water bucket. The donkey was thirsty. Marcus could see this. The donkey walked over and drank. The water went down quickly. The donkey had not had enough water for a long time. Marcus left the donkey alone for the night. He knew the animal needed rest more than anything. He closed the barn door quietly and walked back to his house. It was dark now. The stars were coming out. Marcus looked up at them. He thought about the donkey in the barn. He thought about the journey that donkey had survived. The next morning, Marcus woke up early. He was always awake early. At 63, he had worked his whole life on this ranch. His body knew to wake up before the sun. He drank his coffee in the dark kitchen. He thought about calling the veterinarian. He thought about what he had seen at the auction. There were injuries that needed to be checked. There were things that Marcus did not understand. He called Dr. Patterson at 7 o'clock in the morning. Dr. Patterson was a veterinarian who had worked in the county for 25 years. She was a good person. She cared about animals. When Marcus explained about the donkey, she told him she would come right after her first appointment. Dr. Patterson arrived at 9 o'clock with a medical bag. She was a woman in her 50s. She had gray hair and kind eyes. She moved slowly and carefully around animals, like she understood they were scared. "Show me," she said to Marcus. Marcus brought her to the barn. The donkey was standing in the stall, still very quiet. Dr. Patterson opened the stall door slowly. She moved very slowly toward the donkey. She did not make sudden movements. She did not make loud noise. She spoke in a soft voice. "Hello, friend," she said to the donkey. "I'm going to help you." The donkey's body went stiff. The animal was terrified of human hands. This was clear. The donkey flinched even before Dr. Patterson touched it. Dr. Patterson started her examination at the donkey's head. She looked at the swollen eye very carefully. She touched it gently, and the donkey pulled away. But Dr. Patterson was patient. She waited. She tried again. Slowly, the donkey allowed her to touch the injured eye. Then she moved to the shoulder. She looked at the deep scar. She ran her fingers along it. She felt the shape of it. Her face became very serious. "This was a hot iron," she said quietly. "Someone did this on purpose. This was not an accident." Marcus felt something hot rise up in his chest. Anger. It was anger. Dr. Patterson continued. She examined the gash along the donkey's left side. This wound was still partly open. It was infected. She could see the infection. She could smell it. This wound could have become very serious. This wound could have killed the donkey if it got worse. She checked the donkey's legs very carefully. She felt the bones. She felt the muscles that were not there. This donkey had been starving. This donkey had not eaten enough for many months. She checked each hoof. The hooves were in bad condition. They had not been cleaned or cared for. Then Dr. Patterson did something that made Marcus watch very carefully. She lifted the donkey's upper lip and looked at the teeth. Dr. Patterson's eyes changed. She looked at Marcus, and her eyes were full of emotion. "Come look at this," she said. Marcus came and looked. The teeth were filed down. Not naturally worn down. Deliberately filed. Someone had taken a tool and filed down these teeth on purpose. Why would someone do that? Marcus asked. To make the donkey look younger than it is, Dr. Patterson said. This is a trick. People do this at auctions. They make old animals look young. They sell them for more money. This donkey is probably 15 years old, maybe 16, but someone filed the teeth to make it look like it was just 10. This was done to cheat whoever would buy it. Marcus sat down on a hay bale. He felt like he had been hit. Is the animal going to live? He asked. Dr. Patterson was quiet for a moment. She was thinking. Physically, yes, she said finally. The infections can be treated with medicine. The wounds will heal with time. The donkey can eat soft food and the body can recover. But emotionally, Marcus, that is different. This donkey has learned that humans hurt. That is a deep lesson. Teaching it that humans can be kind, that will take a long time. Dr. Patterson gave Marcus antibiotics. She gave him pain medicine. She told him exactly how to care for each injury. She told him what food to give. She told him to be very patient. This animal will not trust you for a while, she said. Be gentle. Move slowly. Talk quietly. Let the donkey come to you. Do not force it. For 2 weeks, Marcus followed her instructions exactly. Every morning, he would clean the infected wound. Every time, the donkey would flinch and pull away. Every time, Marcus would speak in a soft voice. He would say things like, I know it hurts. I am helping you. You are safe now. The food was good food. Soft alfalfa hay, grain, carrots, fresh vegetables. The donkey ate like it was starving. Because it was, the ribs started to become less visible. Not right away, but slowly. The coat started to look less dull. The swollen eye started to heal. The infected wound started to close. But the fear was still there. The donkey would still flinch when Marcus came near. Would still press into the corner when Marcus entered the stall. Would still have that look in its eye like it was waiting for pain. Marcus did not give up. Every day, he did the same thing. He cleaned the wounds. He gave the medicine. He brought fresh food and water. He talked quietly. He moved slowly. He was patient. One morning, about 4 weeks after bringing the donkey home, something changed. Marcus entered the barn before sunrise. The barn was still dark. The air was cold. He had come to clean the wound again and bring fresh hay. As usual, he expected the donkey to move to the corner and wait for him to finish quickly. But the donkey did not move to the corner. Instead, the donkey turned toward Marcus. The good I was looking at Marcus. And slowly, very slowly, the donkey walked toward him. Marcus did not move. He understood that one sudden movement, one loud noise, and the donkey would run. The donkey walked until it was close to Marcus. Very close. Then, in a moment that Marcus would remember for the rest of his life, the donkey touched its nose to Marcus's chest. It was a small touch. Gentle, but it meant everything. It meant the donkey was beginning to understand that this place was different, that this person was different, that not all humans were cruel. Marcus felt tears in his eyes. He did not move. He did not speak. He just let the donkey touch him. That moment was the beginning of real healing. Marcus was working in his workshop when his granddaughter called. Her name was Elena. She was a journalist. She worked for the regional newspaper. Elena had been calling Marcus for many years, asking him to sit down for interviews. She wanted to write stories about his ranch. Marcus always said no. He was a private man. He did not like attention. But this time, Elena was calling about something different. Grandpa, she said over the phone, I heard something about a donkey you bought at the county auction. Someone told me at the coffee shop. They said you bought it even though everybody was laughing. Is that true? Marcus did not want to talk about it. It was just a donkey that needed help, he said. There is nothing special about it. But Grandpa, that is exactly the kind of story people need to hear, Elena said. That is a story about kindness. That is a story about someone caring when nobody else does. Can I come out and see? Can I write about it? Marcus did not want to say yes. But Elena was his granddaughter. He loved her, and she sounded so excited. So he said yes. 2 days later, Elena arrived at the ranch with a photographer. His name was David. He was young. He had big cameras and lenses. Marcus was uncomfortable with all of this. He did not want to be in a newspaper. But he had said yes, so he stayed with them. Elena spent the afternoon watching Marcus work with the donkey. The donkey was much better now. 3 months had passed since Marcus brought it home. The donkey's coat was becoming shinier. The ribs were not showing as much. The swollen eye was completely healed. The donkey followed Marcus around the barn. When Marcus worked, the donkey stood nearby. Sometimes the donkey would put its head on Marcus's shoulder. "What is the donkey's name?" Elena asked. Marcus thought for a moment. "Hope," he said. "I named it Hope." Elena smiled. She understood why. She asked Marcus many questions. Why did he bid for the donkey when nobody else did? What was the donkey's condition when he first bought it? How did he know the donkey needed help? What made him care so much about an animal that nobody else wanted? Marcus answered honestly. "Because somebody should care," he said. "Because suffering should not be invisible. Because when you see something that needs help, you help it. That is what a good person does." David took many photographs. He took photos of Marcus and Hope together. He took photos of the donkey eating. He took photos of Marcus cleaning the donkey's wounds. He took photos of the old man's weathered face next to the healing donkey. The article came out the following Sunday. It was on the front page of the community section of a newspaper. The headline was big and black. "Local rancher gives second chance to county's most unwanted animal." There was a beautiful photograph of Marcus and Hope. The old man's kind face next to the now healthy donkey. You could see the love between them. You could see that the donkey trusted Marcus. You could see hope in the image. The article told the whole story. It said that Marcus had bought Hope at the county auction when nobody else wanted the animal. It said the donkey had been severely abused and neglected. It said Dr. Patterson had found evidence of intentional cruelty. It said Marcus had spent 3 months nursing the donkey back to health. It said Hope was now recovering, learning to trust humans again. What happened after the article was published shocked Marcus. Within days, people started coming to his ranch. They came to see the donkey. They came to meet Marcus. Some people brought donations. They brought hay and grain and supplies for Hope's care. Some people came with stories. They told Marcus about animals they had seen suffering. They asked Marcus questions about how to help animals. They asked what they could do to stop cruelty. Schools called. Teachers wanted to bring children to visit Hope. Children, they said, needed to learn about kindness and compassion. Children needed to understand that animals were living beings that could suffer. Children needed to see examples of people who cared. Marcus was overwhelmed. He had not expected any of this. He had just done what felt right. He had just helped an animal that needed help. He did not think it was special. He did not think it deserved a newspaper article. But then something else happened. Something that changed everything again. A letter arrived in his mailbox on a Wednesday morning. The envelope was old and worn. The name Marcus was written on it in shaky handwriting. Someone had taken time to write this letter by hand. Marcus sat on his porch and opened it slowly. Inside was a letter and something else. A photograph. Marcus read the first line of the letter, and he had to read it again to make sure he understood. "I sold you the donkey at the county auction. I need you to know the truth about what happened to that animal before I gave it to the next owner." Marcus's hands started to shake a little. He sat down on the wooden steps and read very carefully. The letter was from a man named Daniel. Daniel wrote that he had bought Hope 12 years ago. At that time, Hope was a young, healthy donkey. Daniel had bought it from a good breeder. He had taken care of Hope. He had used the donkey for light work around his property. He had loved that donkey. Then something bad happened to Daniel. His father had suffered stroke. A stroke is when the blood stops going to the brain correctly. After a stroke, Daniel's father could not move or talk properly. Daniel's father needed help all day. Daniel needed to pay for nurses to come to his house. The cost was very high. Daniel had to sell most of his animals to pay for his father's care. He kept only a few animals. He gave Hope to a neighbor. His name was Tom Crawford. Daniel thought Tom was a good person. Daniel thought Tom would take care of Hope. But Daniel was wrong. Tom Crawford did not take care of Hope. Instead, Tom made Hope work very hard. Tom made Hope pull heavy things. When Hope got tired, Tom hit Hope with a whip. When Hope would not work, Tom did not give Hope enough food. Tom kept Hope hungry. Tom did something else too. Tom filed down Hope's teeth. Tom made Hope look younger than the animal really was. Tom was planning to sell Hope at an auction. Tom wanted to get money for the donkey. So Tom made the donkey look younger so people would pay more money. Then Hope got hurt. Hope was working when Hope stumbled and fell. Tom hit Hope with something sharp. That was how the big gash came to be on Hope's side. Tom sold Hope at the county auction. That was how Marcus found Hope. That was the donkey everyone was laughing at. Daniel wrote, I did not know where Hope had gone. I was taking care of my father, and I was not in touch with Tom Crawford. My father passed away 2 months ago. I was looking through some old papers, and I found Tom's address. I called Tom to ask if he still had Hope. Tom told me he had sold Hope at the auction. Then I read your article. When I saw the photograph, I knew right away. It was Hope. I knew immediately. The moment I saw that photograph, I knew my donkey. And I understand now what happened. I understand that I gave my animal to someone I should not have trusted. I gave an animal I loved to someone who hurt it. This is my fault. I fail Hope. I am sorry. At the end of the letter was a photograph. It was a photograph of a young, healthy Hope. The donkey in the photograph was beautiful. The donkey had a shiny coat and bright eyes. And standing next to Hope, with his hand on the donkey's neck, was a younger man smiling. This was Daniel. This was Hope's original owner. This was a man who had loved Hope. Marcus sat on his porch for a long time. He looked at both photographs. The photograph of healthy Hope with Daniel, and the newspaper photograph of Hope with Marcus. Marcus was looking at the before and after. He was looking at a story of love and loss and hope again. That evening, Marcus called Daniel. Hello. Daniel's voice sounded sad and tired. This is Marcus, Marcus said. The man who is Hope now. I read your letter. There was silence on the other end of the line. I wanted you to know that Hope is going to be okay, Marcus said. The donkey is recovering. The donkey is getting strong. The donkey is learning to trust again. I failed him, Daniel said. His voice was shaking. I should have checked on him. I should have known he was being hurt. I should have taken him back. You did fail, Marcus said. Not to be mean, just to be honest. But you're doing better now. You came forward. You told me the truth. That takes courage. That takes honesty. Now we can both help Hope. That is what matters. Marcus and Daniel talked for a long time that night. By the end of the conversation, they were both crying. They were both understanding something important. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we cause suffering even when we do not mean to. But if we are honest about it, if we try to fix it, we can become better. We can help heal the damage we have done. And that, Marcus thought as he hung up the phone, was the most important kind of healing of all. 5 years had passed. 5 years since Marcus walked into that auction on a cold October morning. 5 years since he raised his hand and bought an animal that nobody else wanted. 5 years since Hope came into his life. On this morning, exactly 5 years later, the sun was rising over Marcus's ranch just like it did every morning. The sky was orange and pink. The air was cool. It was the same time of year. The same season, the same weather. Everything was the same, but everything was also very different. Today was a special day. Today was the day that the entire community was gathering at Marcus's ranch. Today was the day they were opening Hope House. Hope House was a sanctuary. It was a place where hurt animals could come to heal. It was a place where children could learn about kindness and animal care. It was a place dedicated to hope and to everything that Hope's story had taught the community. Marcus stood in the barn early that morning before anyone arrived. He wanted to be with Hope alone for a moment. Just the two of them, like it had been in the beginning. Hope was 12 years old now. The veterinarian said Hope was probably around 17 when Marcus first bought the donkey at the auction. So Hope was old now, not young anymore. But the donkey was happy. The donkey was healthy. The donkey was loved. Marcus put his hand on Hope's neck. The donkey's coat was smooth and shiny. The ribs were not visible. The eye that had been swollen was completely healed. There were no more signs of the suffering. There were no more visible scars. But Marcus knew that some scars were inside. Some hurt was invisible. Look at what you have done, Marcus said quietly to the donkey. Look at what your story has done. Hope turned to Marcus and nuzzled his hand gently. The donkey was looking for Carrot. Marcus smiled. He always had a carrot for Hope in his pocket. By 9 o'clock in the morning, people started arriving. They came in trucks and cars. They came on foot. There were old people and young people. There were families with children. There were teachers. There were veterinarians. There were animal rescue workers. There were people from a newspaper and the television station. They all came because of hope. They all came because of a story about an old man and a broken donkey. The ceremony began with Elena. She stood on a small platform and talked about why this place mattered. She talked about hope's journey. She talked about how one person choosing to care had changed an entire community. 5 years ago, Elena said, "My grandfather did something simple. He saw something suffering. He helped it. That simple act of kindness created a wave. It created change. It created this place." Then Dr. Patterson spoke. She talked about her journey helping hope. She talked about how important it was to care for animals. She talked about how animals could teach us about resilience and healing. "Hope taught me something," Dr. Patterson said. "Hope taught me that healing is possible. Physical healing and emotional healing. Hope taught me that patience and kindness can repair what cruelty has broken." Daniel spoke too. He had come from far away to be here. Daniel talked about his failure and his journey to redemption. "I gave hope to someone I should not have trusted," Daniel said. His voice was shaking a little. "I did not know what would happen, but I learned something important. When we make mistakes, when we cause suffering, we have to take responsibility. We have to try to make it right. And Marcus gave me the chance to do that." Then children came forward. There were 5 of them. They were holding ribbons. The ribbons were red and blue and yellow and green and purple. They walked to where Hope was standing. Hope stood calmly. The donkey was used to children now. The children were taught to be gentle. They would never hurt Hope. The children tied the ribbons to the fence of Hope's enclosure. Each child said something. "Thank you, Hope, for teaching me to be kind," the first child said. "Thank you, Hope, for showing me that animals can feel pain," the second child said. "Thank you, Hope, for helping my grandpa and my grandma care better," the third child said. "Thank you, Hope, for making me want to be a veterinarian," the fourth child said. "Thank you, Hope, for showing us that one person can change things," the fifth child said. By this time, many people were crying. Even Marcus had tears in his eyes. But they were good tears. They were tears of knowing that something important had happened. After the ceremony, people walked through Hope House. They looked at the displays about animal welfare. They read stories about other animals that had been saved. They saw photographs of Hope's transformation. They saw the before picture from years ago when Hope was broken. They saw the after pictures from now when Hope was healthy and happy. Children went into a special room where they could learn about caring for donkeys. They learned how to touch a donkey properly. They learned what donkeys eat. They learned what sounds donkeys make. They learned that donkeys were intelligent animals that remembered everything. An elderly woman came up to Marcus. She had tears on her face. "I want to thank you," she said. "My grandson came here last month on a school trip. He learned about Hope's story. He came home and told me he wanted to help animals. He wants to volunteer at the animal shelter now. You changed my grandson's life." A young man came up to Marcus. He was probably 25 years old. "I read about Hope when I was in high school," the young man said. "Your granddaughter wrote that article. I wanted to become a veterinarian because of Hope's story. I just graduated from veterinary school. I'm starting my first job next month. I will be working with rescue animals. Thank you for inspiring me." An old rancher came up to Marcus. He was someone Marcus had known his whole life. "I was at that auction," the rancher said. "I was one of the people laughing at that donkey. I was one of the people who said it was worthless. I've been thinking about that moment for 5 years. I've been thinking about how I could have chosen to care instead of choosing to laugh. You taught me something. You taught me that every choice matters. I'm being kinder now. Because of you. Because of Hope." As the sun started to go down, most of the visitors left. The ranch became quiet again. Marcus walked Hope from the enclosure to the barn. It was their routine. Every evening, the same routine. Hope walked beside Marcus. Sometimes the donkey would lean against Marcus's leg. Sometimes Hope would stop and look at something in the pasture. Sometimes Hope would make a soft sound, like a greeting to the other horses. When they reached the barn, Marcus led Hope to the stall. Fresh hay was waiting. Clean water was waiting. Everything Hope needed was there. Marcus sat on a hay bale and watched Hope eat. The old man was thinking about the journey. He was thinking about that morning 5 years ago. He was thinking about how one decision had changed everything. "You know something?" Marcus said to the donkey. "I came to that auction that morning not knowing why I was going. I thought I was going to just look around. I did not know I was going to buy an animal. I did not know my life was about to change. I did not know that you would change so many people's lives." Hope finished eating and walked over to Marcus. The donkey touched its nose to the old man's chest. It was the same gesture that Hope had made 5 years ago when the donkey was learning to trust again. It was a gesture of love. It was a gesture of connection. "You saved me," Marcus said. "I thought I was saving you. But really, you saved me. You gave my life meaning. You gave me a reason to keep going. You showed me that one person can make a difference. You taught me that kindness matters. You taught me that compassion is never wasted." Marcus stood up and hugged the donkey. He held Hope close. The old man's eyes were full of tears. In that moment, Marcus understood something completely. He understood that Hope's suffering had not been meaningless. Out of pain had come purpose. Out of cruelty had come compassion. Out of one broken animal and one old man's choice to care, an entire community had learned to see differently. The barn was quiet. The animals were settled for the night. Outside, the stars were beginning to appear. Inside, an old man and an old donkey stood together. They stood in the warm barn, in the safe place that Marcus had created, in the sanctuary of love and healing. And somewhere in that moment, everything that had happened, all the suffering, all the pain, all the journey, it all made sense. It all had purpose. It all had meaning. Because Hope had not just survived. Hope had taught. Hope had inspired. Hope had changed the world, at least a little bit. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything.